There we go.
Good evening. Welcome to the March 12th, 2019 meeting of Pequannock Township Council. Ms. Marsh.
In accordance with the requirements of New Jersey's Open Public Meetings Act, notice of this meeting was included in the annual meeting notice, which was filed in the office of the Township Clerk, posted on the bulletin board in the municipal building, published as a legal notice in the Suburban Trends newspaper, and distributed to all persons requesting notice in accordance with Township policy.
Please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance, followed by a prayer and a moment of thanks for our individuals serving our nation. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Most gracious Providence, we ask that you bless this governing body with an abundance of wisdom and understanding, so that every deliberation will result in actions which will promote the common good and the general welfare for all the people of Pequannock Township. Amen.
Amen. The clerk will please call the roll.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Here.
Mr. Hurd?
Here.
Mr. Phelan? Here. Mrs. Russell?
Here.
Mayor Cole?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Next on the agenda is presentations, and we have three presentations for the police department tonight.
Thanks, everybody, for coming out tonight. First, I want to start off by thanking Mayor Cole, the council, Township Manager Brewer. I've said it before, I'm going to say it again. Without these people, we just can't do the job that we do the way we do it. I've heard stories at other places where with promotions, with hiring, things get put on hold, things get delayed, but here, these guys, they really back us, and we have a new guy, a new hire, and 2 promotions to do tonight. We have 3 promotions next month, and 1 in July. The chief wanted to be here for all of them, but he couldn't be here because of his continued battle with his diagnosis, so he's going to maybe do the July one, hopefully, and I won't have to do anymore. But we did sit down, we sat down and we said, you know, maybe we'll just do all 7 in July, and I said, you got to think here. I said, Kevin Nelson's being promoted. There's going to be a lot of family members. So we got to split this thing up. So we got 3 tonight. Before we get to the promotions and to the swearing in of the new officer, I want to bring up 2 officers that just retired. First one, Lieutenant Michael Fairweather, Detective Lieutenant Michael Fairweather. Come on up, Michael. I'm going to keep this whole thing short. Somebody told me to keep it short, and that's the best way to do it. Detective Lieutenant Michael Fairweather joined the department in 1994. He served as a patrolman, a detective sergeant, and a detective lieutenant. He's extremely knowledgeable in his job, and he was always the guy to go to for advice. Over the last 25 years, he spent most of his time in the Detective Bureau. He was probably on 90% of the big cases we've had in that time, and he brought a lot of those cases to a close. His leadership is going to be missed, and I just want to thank him right now, and I ask you to thank him with a round of applause. The next officer, Captain Krista Pite. I know he's here. Come on. Oh, you gotta come on. So I didn't tell him I was going to recognize him because he's not really off the books for another couple weeks. He's using his last vacation time. I knew he wouldn't show up if I said that I was going to say something. So, and I know he's not going to show up next month if I said that we were going to recognize him next month. So, Captain Krista Pite has been a member of the department since August of 1993. He served as a patrolman, traffic officer, traffic sergeant, patrol lieutenant, and captain. He most recently served as the acting chief of police. As you know, with Chief Spring, He was away from the department for about a year, and to be honest with you, Captain DePite, he could have left in August. He stuck around to lead us. He stepped in. His steadfast leadership during that time was greatly appreciated by myself, by the rank and file. He was a great mentor to me, and I just want to say thank you to him. Dave. First guy up, our new officer, Officer Jason Chestnut. Come on, Jay. Jason came to us in a little different way than most of our officers. He grew up in Burgall, North Carolina, where he attended Pender High School. From high school, he attended North Carolina State University, and he majored in construction engineering management. He graduated with a bachelor's degree in 2008, correct? Yes, sir. 2008. After college, he moved around a lot. He was employed as a cell tower inspector. He spent some time in Alaska where he lived, and in 2014, he moved to Vernon, New Jersey to be with his wife. They have 2 small children, JT, his son, and his daughter Lena. He lives with his in-laws in Vernon, New Jersey. Thomas and Grace, they're all here. Jason attended the Bergen County Police Academy, where he graduated in December 2018. He was an alternate route candidate. He received the highest award there, the academic award, and we're very lucky to have him. He went through a very rigorous interview process with the police department. I think he was here about 5 or 6 times, interviewing with sergeants, lieutenants, captains, the chief. So he's done a really good job. We're happy to have him. Bring up your pen. Yes.
Look at that tie. Yeah. Come on up, Maris.
They're like, no. We're gonna hide. I guess we're all getting.
Okay. Raise your right hand. I, Jason Chestnut,
I, Jason Chestnut,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform all the duties of Pequannock Township Police Officer,
all the duties of Pequannock Township Police Officer,
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability.
so help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations. Yep. Okay. Congratulations.
Congratulations. I'm just the clerk.
No such thing. Jason, we're going to get pictures.
Yeah, we have some more.
Yeah, let's see if we can get that's good. You're good. Thanks.
All right. Up next, we have Sergeant Stephen Cicchetti. Come on up, Steve. Sergeant Chicketti's been with the department for 14 years. He served in several roles in the police department. He was a patrolman. About 6 years ago, he applied to be the school resource officer, juvenile detective, lead instructor, detective, so he wore a lot of hats in the detective bureau. He jumped right into that job. He did an outstanding job, to be honest with you, and we're really happy with his performance there. When the chief got sick last year, he was promoted to the acting detective sergeant. So in addition to leading the detective bureau as a supervisor, he was still doing all his other tasks, and he did an outstanding job doing that. His experience is going to serve him well as he moves to the patrol division as a patrol supervisor, patrol sergeant. He's here with his wife Linda, his son Jackson, and his daughter Emerson. Is Emerson here? Yep. I heard her. I didn't see her. I heard her. You guys want to come up? He also has his sister and his in-laws and his parents here. So.
Sure, if everyone wants to come on. Yeah, come on up.
Come on down.
I'll even take a video if I want. She can
There we go.
We're not going to be that I, Stephen Cicchetti,
I, Stephen Cicchetti,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
under
under the authority of the people,
and
that I will faithfully,
impartially,
and justly perform all the duties of a sergeant of Pequannock Township Police Department,
all the duties of a sergeant of the Pequannock Township Police Department,
according to the best of my ability,
so
help me God.
So help me God.
Dude, can we get on?
You keep them seated.
In the middle.
Super.
Thank you.
Hey, Steve.
Last but not least, Lieutenant Kevin Nelson, come on up. Lieutenant Nelson's been with the department for almost 23 years. He served in almost every position in the department over those years. Served as a patrolman, traffic officer, detective, patrol sergeant, detective sergeant, and over the past year, he's served as the acting patrol lieutenant. In addition to that, he's been the accreditation manager, which takes up a lot of his time. So he was doing a couple jobs at the same time. With all that experience, he's going to now become the full-time patrol/traffic and community services bureau lieutenant, and we're confident he's going to do an outstanding job. He's here with his wife Lisa, his son Kevin Jr., his other son Jake, and his daughter Grace, along with countless family members and friends. You guys come on up. Neighbors and...
You can tell that my wife is getting older because she had both Dan and Kevin
And me.
as students.
Yeah, and two.
Not me. Now, do you want to be able to, why don't you,
Just stand in front.
okay. Raise your right hand. I, Kevin Nelson,
I, Kevin Nelson,
do solemnly swear
do solemnly swear
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
that I will support the Constitution of the United States
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and the Constitution of the State of New Jersey,
and that I will bear true faith
and that I will bear true faith
and allegiance to the same
and allegiance to the same,
and to the governments established in the United States
and to the governments established in the United States
and in this state,
and in this state,
under the authority of the people,
under the authority of the people,
and that I will faithfully,
and that I will faithfully,
impartially,
impartially,
and justly perform
and justly perform
all the duties of Lieutenant of the Pequannock Township Police Department
all the duties of Lieutenant of the Pequannock Township Police Department
according to the best of my ability,
according to the best of my ability,
so help me God.
so help me God.
Congratulations. So family pictures first?
Right here, right here, right here. Yes. All right, good. All right.
All right, last but not least, I want to bring up the Rotary for a presentation of body armor. Whoever would like to come up. New officer, Jason Chestnut. So over the past 20-some years, the Rotary's been donating body armor, bulletproof vests, to not only our police department, but Riverdale and Lincoln Park and other emergency services they've been donating money to, equipment to. This is another vest that they're donating. I think this is the fourth one in about 9 months. They cost about $1,000 a piece, so they do a great job, and they're super generous to us and other departments in the area. So I want to thank them, and I want to give them a round of applause.
Wish you all the best, especially protecting our community. Yes. And
Prayers on
keep
that
yourself
thought.
safe.
Thank you very much.
All right, thank you.
The entire council also thanks the Rotary for all they do for the community and for the police departments and the towns that they serve. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, thank you.
I look forward to yours soon. Do I get to talk then?
Sure.
Oh, you kept it beautifully short. I like the reference too. Gotta keep you
There's a lot of interesting things going on tonight if you want to stay.
Yeah, you sure you don't want to sit there? That's it?
Gentlemen?
Did you bet again that he would mess up?
No.
He did good. Oh, why, he did that last time?
Yeah. I guess when he swore us and he put a bet on the fact that we have an empty house.
You have an empty house?
No, I'm saying we're gonna.
All right. Chris. Thank you.
I can't believe you didn't get up. You should have gotten on. Well, thank Hey, Frankie. Yeah, maybe we'll talk. Or tomorrow. Yeah, I'll run the number for you. I was wondering because I didn't hear from you.
I don't think. Yeah, I don't think.
We'll see how late it is. Yeah. I knew I could get him if I tried.
Still out, what, you're like it? Jesus. I didn't hold you in such high esteem, Council.
Get to your meeting. In my hotel, I sat up there for 17 years, so. But this is it's a good thing, this is great. This is great.
Congratulations.
Do you think she's on
She said she believes in term limits and she was
choices? Yeah, I expect to have a conversation with her. Ask her
Yeah, good point.
25 years.
Good point.
And then she's like, that's because they keep asking me to come back. Did you ever do
Good guy. Maybe at the end you can just throw that down there. All right. Next on the agenda is reports from volunteers. At this time, are there any reports or comments from any volunteers serving our community? Mr. Wells.
No, you can't close the doors.
Frank, you can't close the door.
Frank, you can't close the doors, Frank.
Can't close the door, Frank.
Frank.
You gotta leave the door.
Gotta leave the doors open. Yeah, have to.
That's all right. We'll talk loud.
Okay.
There you go. All right, Mr. Wells.
Joe Wells, 5 Washington Street, Pequannock, Poplar Plains. Chairman of the Open Space Committee, Morris County Board of Transportation. And actually, I'll start out with, I'm a member of the Morris Canal Society Working Group. And one of the things I just want to mention tonight is that at our last meeting last Friday, I spoke with the planner from Passaic County and some of the other people from the Canal Society, and they're working pretty well along on the Morris Canal Feeder Trail. And to explain what that is, it's a trail that will run roughly from the terminus of the rail trail down in Mountain View, and it's going to end at Jackson Avenue very close to our, one of the points of the Riverwalk Trail. In other words, that's something they've got funding for, they're proceeding with it. So at a point in that area, we're going to have the end of the rail trail, part of the Riverwalk, and now a Passaic County trail that could actually create a circular route. You could hike down that trail to the bridge at the border of Lincoln Park and Pequannock over the river and come back up into town and so forth. So there's going to be a lot of activity in an area. We're looking at maybe 2 years away for that. We just had our meeting of open space yesterday, and our next meeting is going to be a joint meeting with the Parks and Recreation Group and our committee, and our focus is to talk about planning for the future in the case of recreational areas and so forth. We work together. We're acquiring land. One of our mandates is improving our current parks and so forth. And so working with Parks and Recreation, we hope to supply the council with some good ideas for future planning. One other item that I'd like to mention is that the anniversary of our tree planting is coming up in April, and with the 400 trees we planted, we're going to be on the 20th and 21st. We'll be looking for volunteers. That's everybody that's watching. The 20th and the 21st, we're going to see how many trees survived. We're going to be working with knowledgeable gardeners to prune and mulch and do some other things to preserve those trees that have survived. And I'm sure everybody in the council is dying to know survival rate.
I'm sure it was pretty high with all the rain.
Yeah, I think with the preparations that we did, Mother Nature blessed us with a lot of watering in the early period. I'm very thankful for that, because I was watering the trees there for a while in April and May, and the rest of the year. In fact, they're under about 3 inches of snow right now, and the beauty of that snowfall, which is a repeat of last year, only it happened in March, all the weeds that grew up have been knocked down. It's going to make us easier to access the trees to do what we're talking about. So we're looking for volunteers to come out on the 20th and 21st to help us do a maintenance and an evaluation of those trees. And that's basically it. Any questions or thoughts?
Joe, were you talking specifically about the trees on Pequannock Ave?
Pequannock and Riverside.
And Riverside.
We always concentrate on Pequannock Avenue, and then depending on the resources that we have, we'll move on to Riverside.
All right, but those are the two main areas.
Yeah, exactly. And I'll have a flyer, and I'm going to post something on the town website and et cetera before that time, but we're always looking for people to help in that regard. All right, thank you. That's it for me.
Thank you, Joe.
Thank you, Joe.
Any other reports from volunteers? All right. At this time, next on the agenda is public comment. This public comment period will be limited to a total of 30 minutes. An additional period of public comment is reserved later in the meeting. Individuals are requested to limit their questions and comments to 3 minutes. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized, come to the microphone, provide your name and address for the record.
Good evening, everybody. I was actually very nervous coming in because there was a big crowd here, but that kind of dwindled down. Still a little bit nervous. My name is Michael Vicosa. I reside at 22 Birch Road. I live there with my wife and 2 children. We bought the place in 2014 from an elderly couple. The husband passed away, and the wife just couldn't keep up with the maintenance of the house. The husband wasn't a hoarder. We redid the house. It was a major addition. He added a level. And from what I gather from my neighbors, they said, great job, and I think I added value to the community, and I think I know that because my taxes practically doubled. So my issue today, I just want to come up before the council. In the preparation of constructing our process, we had to go through a variance procedure regarding building coverage and front yard
Setback.
front yard setback from my porch. We went through that process. It took probably around 4 months. Unfortunately, the weather didn't help us out. I think 2 or 3 meetings were canceled because of snow, so it pushed back the date of getting memorialized. But everything was done. I started with the construction. I actually was my own general contractor, and I sent you guys an email. The closest thing I got to a general contractor was watching HGTV. But I think I did a pretty good job. Recently, I did receive a letter of notice of a violation that I had concerning my fence, my shed, size of my shed, and my daughter's playset. I know you may not be able to answer a couple of questions. I do have a meeting with the zoning officer tomorrow morning, Ms. Hartman. But like I said, I do own a corner property, and I was kind of want to ask the question to the town council. I was doing some research online. In 2014, there was some kind of amendment or an ordinance that kind of changed the fence policy on corners. I was wondering if anybody was on the board at that time, and if they do they recollect what was changed?
I was on, most of us were on at that time, but I don't recall changing anything on the fence.
Okay.
Maybe it was a setback or something, but I don't, we do so many things.
So with the setback, my wife wrote down some notes. On the website, we thought we followed the setback requirements of 50 feet from the front yard. We were allowed to go up to 6 feet, which is what we did. I had the fence on my plan. However, like I said, me being the first-time general contractor, I built the fence pretty close to the property line instead of 10 feet in from the property line. I thought my property line was the curb, but I guess that's my first-time homeowner mistake, maybe a costly one. The swing set that I built, I believe, may not be considered a structure. There's many swing sets throughout town in people's side yards. I don't believe or see why it would be an issue. To me, it may be, well, it is temporary until my kids are grown. My wife is 5'10", I'm 6'4", so they'll probably outgrow it by the time they're probably 6. Got the rate they're going. They're weeds. Back to the resolution back in 2014. Does anything recall about sight lines? Does it interfere with sight lines? Because my specific property, my side yard, and then it's kind of hard to follow. My side yard is not somebody else's front yard. So my side yard or my backyard is adjacent to somebody else's backyard and side yard. So I feel that I am not blocking anybody's front view as far as putting a 6-foot fence. I don't think it's a safety issue as regarding the traffic. I think they call it a traffic triangle. And I think that's all I have. Like I said, I'll have probably more to discuss with Ms. Hartman tomorrow morning.
I'm going to let Mr. Brewer, because I believe he's had a conversation with you.
I did this afternoon.
Yeah, I had the opportunity to have a conversation with Mr. Ficosa earlier today, and you know, one of the challenges with corner properties is you have 2 front yards as opposed to a side yard, so that may lead to some of the confusion. But as we discussed, you know, the council, although it's the legislative body and sets the laws, isn't the venue to handle the zoning issue, and Mr. Ficosa acknowledged that. He's meeting with the zoning officer tomorrow, just as with a police officer function or any other enforcement function. That's what that officer does. It's not what this body or even my office does. So essentially, I appreciate the fact that you're meeting with Ms. Hartman and working through the issues. I know this goes back, you know, a little bit of time, and I appreciate that you got through whatever issues you may have. But yeah, there are essentially 3 issues that were included in the notice of violation. You did a good job of identifying them, and you know, the opportunity to correct it is either, you know, conformance application before the Board of Adjustment, or if you don't do anything, then then escalation of enforcement, which you said isn't an option, which I appreciate the positive conversation that we had. So I look forward to your meeting with Jill tomorrow. Should there be something that my office needs to take action on or something I need to recommend to the council, we will. But, I hope the meeting goes well tomorrow and resolution is worked through moving forward.
Just one last.
Right, and I have one thing to say too. If you want an idea on how, I live on a corner lot like you do, and I have a fence, and my fence had to be set back a certain distance from the street, even though I own all the property. So I live at 29 Rockledge. If you want to take a look at how my fence is set back, I have no choice but to have my fence set back, even though it's not going to obstruct anything or whatever. It's an ordinance that's been passed a while ago.
I just feel like, in a way, you're a resident, you're paying taxes.
We feel your pain.
Yeah, and then you're paying for, whether the setback being 5 feet, you're paying 5 feet for the public to see your property instead of you to use your property.
Take a look at mine. Mine's more than 5.
Just a quick question on how, if wording were to get changed, because I think it was changed in 2014, how will the process go? Is it you bring your issue towards the zoning office and they write up a resolution and you guys pass it?
It might go to the planning board to review it, discuss it. It's a long, lengthy process, so it's not something that's going to happen overnight.
Overnight, no.
So
Gotta get the ball
I
rolling
wouldn't even
somehow.
think of that path at this moment.
No,
But
okay.
if you know anything about government,
Everything, I work for the Port Authority, so I know everything is really slow.
yeah,
So,
okay. I mean, again, we feel your pain, and like I said, you're welcome to look at my property, how my fence is, and I'm even more than 5 foot back. I think mine's 15, 20 feet back.
Okay. All right, well, that's it. Thank you for hearing me out.
Thank you.
Any other?
Should you need to follow, excuse me, Mayor, if you need to follow up with me after the meeting, please give me a call.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other public comment? There being no additional public comment, we'll continue with the agenda. Next on the agenda is manager's report. Mr. Brewer.
Thank you, Mayor. As scheduled on the agenda, we have 2 ordinances for public hearing and potential adoption. The club liquor license expanding from 3 licenses to 4, as requested by Cedar Crest, and an ordinance to preserve and maintain a cap bank. There's also a public hearing scheduled for the open space levy, but I'll leave further conversation about that when we hit to the agenda item. Additionally, in my report, I noted in the February 23rd manager's report to council that with respect to the West Sunset Road water main extension project, that work had been completed. That was an erroneous statement within that report, so I want to correct that for the benefit of the record. As it's noted here, only a very limited amount of work with that project was completed. So you can't assess for something that hasn't actually been completed, so staff and professionals continue to review the status of that. Lastly, and perhaps most importantly, based upon the participation we had from the public on the preliminary flood information rate maps from FEMA, although articulated in FEMA's process, there was supposed to be a meeting with the township and there was one tentatively scheduled. FEMA did not meet with us. Significant, strongly but politely worded correspondence was shared with FEMA. They ultimately have responded. They are going to meet with us, but now we're at the point where we're running against the deadline for the application for a scientific resolution panel. So on Monday, the 11th, the application for the scientific resolution panel was in fact submitted, and we will be proceeding with that process, as well as meeting with FEMA. But in order to preserve our rights and the rights of our residents, we wanted to make sure that we complied with their process, even though candidly FEMA is not compliant with their own process. So that was done. Other than that, I have no more items on the agenda. Thank you.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is public hearing ordinance number 2019-03. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance 2019-03 is an ordinance amending Chapter 43 of the revised general ordinances of the Township of Pequannock and increasing the number of alcoholic beverage club licenses to 4.
Are there any comments from council on this?
Nope.
Yeah, I'm good. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second? All in favor? Aye. If anyone in the audience has questions or comments on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and identify yourself for the record. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor? Aye. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make a motion to adopt ordinance 2019-03.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes. Next on the agenda is public hearing ordinance number 2019-04. Ms. Marsh.
Ordinance number 2019-04 is an ordinance to establish and preserve a cat bank.
Are there any comments from council? Something we always do. Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to open public hearing on ordinance number 2019-04.
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. If anyone in the audience has a question or comment on this ordinance, please come to the microphone and identify yourself for the record. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make a motion to close the public hearing.
Is there a second?
I'll second it.
All in favor? Aye. Is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I'll make that motion to adopt ordinance number 2019-04.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Never mind, I take mine back.
Roll call.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes. Next on the agenda is public hearing on 2019 open space levy. Mr. Brewer, any comments?
Thank you, Mayor. As a component of the 2019 budget discussion, there was a review of the current open space tax rate. For the members of the public and those watching, the current open space tax rate is 0.6 cents per hundred of assessed value, which, based upon the 2019 tax rate, would generate approximately $143,173 in revenue. Based upon the conversation with council, the municipal tax levy increase was restricted in order to have the municipal tax levy and the open space tax levy be less than 2% as a whole. Therefore, the recommendation in the public hearing is being held to discuss the increase of the open space tax rate by 0.4 cents. So it was 0.6 cents per hundred, and it now will be 1 cent per hundred of assessed value. The resulting the resulting revenue based on the 2019 tax rate will be $238,622, which is a delta of $95,499. As discussed with the council, based upon the opportunity for open space, flood-prone acquisition, and other projects, this money will have a significant return on investment. At least 3 times every dollar spent will be returned to the community moving forward with the grants that are available. So that is the conclusion of the presentation on the open space tax rate.
All right. Any comments from council?
Nope.
Is there a motion to open the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
We'll go with Rich. All in favor?
Aye. Will you please?
All in favor?
Aye.
If anyone in the audience has a question or comment on the 2019 open space levy, please come to the microphone, identify yourself for the record. Mr. Wells. You don't want it decreased again, do you?
No, Joe Wells, 5 Washington Street, Pequannock, Pumpkin Plain. I just want to echo what Adam said. Our record for grants and using that money as seed money to get many multiples back for things for the town is great. We banged out many 7 in a row for our property acquisitions along the river and many other projects the town has done over the years. So it's going to be something that's really going to benefit the town. The more money we have in that fund, the more money we can get in a multiple from 3 to 5 times. So I applaud the council for making that decision.
Thank you. Is there a motion to close the public hearing?
I'll make that motion.
Second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Carol says there is no vote on this. Okay.
There's no required vote. It's not an ordinance. It's just a requirement to hold the public hearing.
Next on the agenda is ordinances for introduction, and we do not have any at this time. Next on the agenda is resolutions. Ms. Marsh.
Beginning with R 2019-69, approving the designated special event permit application. That's for the PBA Local 172 Car Show. 2019-70, appointing is going to be pulled, actually. It's to appoint individuals to the Open Space Advisory Committee, but there's been some extra discussion on this point. So we're going to do it on the next meeting. Our 2019-71, authorizing the execution of an interlocal agreement between the Township of Pequannock and the Board of Education of Pequannock Township for vehicle maintenance and repair services. 2019-72, amending Resolution 2018-182, which confirmed assessments for the village area sewer project. 2019-73, authorizing a temporary emergency appropriation for operating purposes. 2019-74, canceling unexpended recreation capital appropriation balances. 2019-75, canceling unexpended general capital ordinance balances, general appropriation balances. 2019-76, approving payment of the itemized claims as set forth on the March 7th, 2019 bill list and the March 7th, 2019, 2015, and 2016 FEMA elevation escrow list. And R 2019-77, authorizing the execution of agreement and accepting funds in the amount of $60,000 from Adopt.
Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
Nope.
And just so I'm clear, the $60,000 is the money that actually came from Columbia.
Yeah, Mayor, if I may, I'd like to thank Columbia Bank. They made a donation in the amount of $60,000 to the Adopt animal group that works with our shelter to support operations as well as animal well-being, and that money's being transferred for the township to improve our dog adopting facility, the HVAC and air quality, and other improvements to the shelter to increase the customer service experience. So we owe thanks to Columbia Bank as well as Adopt, and I look forward to moving forward with those improvements.
Great. Thank you. Are there any comments on the resolutions from council?
No?
No? Is there a motion to adopt these resolutions?
I'll make a motion to adopt R 2019-69, R 2019-71, 72, 73, 74, 75, 76, and 77.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Mrs. Florence Lynch?
Yes.
Mr. Hurd?
Yes.
Mr. Phelan?
Yes.
Mrs. Russell?
Yes.
Mayor Cole?
Yes. Next on the agenda is items for discussion, and we do not have any for this evening. Next is reports and notices, and there are no reports and notices. Next on the agenda is council reports and announcements. Councilwoman Florence Lynch.
Okay, just a couple of things. The Senior Advisory Committee met, and they also wanted me to mention that on March 19th from 1 to 3, they're having a St. Patty's Day luncheon with corned beef and cabbage at the Senior House. And if anyone here, the town manager or elected officials would like to attend, just let me know so we can add you. And they also wanted to invite Pete Coriel, so I don't know if he got an email. Can you pass it along?
Certainly.
Just tell him that March 19th, they'd love to have you guys attend since they had such a great time with you all last time. Our next meeting is Tuesday, April 2nd at 10:30. Economic Development Committee, they met. They have a full committee now of 11 members, and what they did, which was a good idea, was they decided to break up, because they had such a large group, they broke up into some subcommittees, and they're getting, making some good headway, getting some things done. They have one committee that was looking at the bid process, the Business Improvement District, if that's something that we wanted to explore. They also brought in, we looked at this years ago, it never went anywhere, but they decided to explore a little bit more with business owners and building owners. So they brought in Mike Simone, who was kind enough from Compton Lakes to come in and give us his knowledge now that he's retired. He said he'd be more than willing to come and help us because he was very instrumental, as we know, in Compton Lakes. They have a Chamber of Commerce committee that's working closely with the Chamber of Commerce to help, the current needs of the local businesses. They have a committee just for guest speakers to come in. A social media committee and a town business committee meeting. And that would be to give us a progress on the list of new and existing storefronts and vacancies, and then there's the budget committee. So there'll be more to come on that. They're also working on doing a networking event again with the business owners and the building owners. Our next economic development meeting is scheduled for Wednesday, March 27th at 7:30. And last but not least, the flood committee did not meet in February because it was Valentine's Day, and I guess they all had plans.
Adele, usual love.
But they had a very good meeting the month before. And then our next meeting will be Thursday, the 14th, 2 days from now, at 7:30, here in this room. Okay, that's it.
Thank you. Councilman Hurd.
All right. We had our open space meeting. Unfortunately, Joe Wells took all the wind out of my sails for that one. As he said, rail trail, I'm very excited about that, is coming through. Tree trimmings, April 27th and 28th is how we have it designated so far.
We changed it to the 20th and the 21st.
There you go.
You didn't get the memo.
I didn't get the memo. Let's see, what else do I have? I have volunteers needed for our annual riverbank cleanup. It's going to be Saturday, April 6, 2019, 9 a.m. to 1 p.m. Everybody meet over at Senior Center.
That was Dave's thing.
That is going to be Dave's, yeah. So nobody else has. But I'm sure Dave would need some help. Let's see, Grains of Hope, Sunday, March 24th. We still need your help. It's going to be at Pequannock Valley Middle School Gym. The sign up, let me make sure I get this right, is GOH 2019, peq.eventbrite.com. That's all I have.
Thank you. Councilman Hurd, Councilman Phelan.
The only thing I want to mention is that our DPW does a fantastic job of cleaning our roads and keeping our town nice, but you really see it during a snowstorm. I leave early for work in the morning, and our roads are nice and clear. I get up into Wayne, and it's a nightmare. Am I allowed to say that? But anyway, I want to thank our DPW guys. They do an outstanding job all the time. You can always count on them getting out there and doing what has to be done to keep our roads clear. That's it.
Mayor, can I add to that actually really quick? Sure. Because that just reminded me, DPW, talk about being great with the roads, also with the trees and the excess wood that is outside of DPW, which I had the benefit of going and picking out more wood from the dumpster. That's a fabulous thing that they're doing. Getting rid of this stuff at no cost to the town. A lot of people really appreciate it every time I'm there. There's other people there. Everybody really thanks. So, again, that's awesome.
Great idea.
Councilwoman Russell.
The Environmental Committee meets tomorrow at the Senior House at 7:30. The Parks and Rec really were putting their heads together on how to make PV Park more interesting, and they came up with some great ideas, which I ran by council at the previous meeting. Coming up with assigning an activities director, somebody that's going to have maybe relay races every Wednesday, so the kids know, come on down Wednesday at 2 or 3, pick up volleyball. They also talked about doing more marketing and the possibility of having a luau to kick off to get people down to see how nice PV Park really is. I think a lot of people don't realize how nice it is. Maybe years ago when we had problems, that's what they remember. So maybe this person says, oh, how is it? And somebody else may say, oh, it's not that nice, but it's really beautiful. And I think if we get people to see how nice it is, we'll get our membership up.
That's it. Thank you. Just a couple things for me. Last night we had the first aid squad meeting for the month of February. There was total of 41 calls. On May 4th, the first aid squad is having their casino night. And also on May 4th, Pequannock PBA is having their car show during the day. So you can go out and see the cars during the day, and then you can go to the casino night at night. I believe casino night is going to be at Holy Spirit School, and I think the doors open at 6.
Always a fun thing to do.
If you need tickets, you can see me. Next on the agenda is public comment. If anyone wishes to address the council, please wait to be recognized, come to the microphone, and provide your name and address for the record. Okay.
You're getting a pro, to be a pro at this.
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm here. The dog park.
Name and address.
Oh, sorry. Michael Vacosa, 22 Birch Road. The dog park is obviously on the water. Weren't there like 2 structures built pretty close to it? And if so, what are those structures? Are they like pump houses?
One is a well that we no longer use at this time because it had a high level of
sodium and hardness.
So we don't think that that's the reason that the dog park is flooding. We think, our engineer was there with DPW. They dug a 3-foot hole, and within minutes, it filled back up with water, so.
Worst case scenario, is like a contingency plan if that just continues to go?
We are working on a contingency plan with the engineer and the DPW, and it's
just curious.
It's going to be a nightmare, but we're going to have to see what we can do.
If I may, last Friday, it actually receded 2 inches.
Oh, good. In the right direction.
So we were excited for that, and then it rained.
It rained again.
So, yeah, we do have contingency plans that include using the drainage ditch and running pipes and pumping. It's not a beneficial program, but if the road...
Is there a pump that pumps it somewhere?
No,
we would deploy a pump within the dog park, which is a natural fenced area, so it would screen the material, which is helpful, and then we would use the well pump to try to decrease the hydrostatic pressure that's pushing up on the retention basin to hit it from both sides. But that would be in the event that West Parkway is actually threatened and the drainage has a problem. But yeah, we do have contingencies and cost estimates and things like that in place.
And
for the benefit of the record, the audience is recommending water wings for the dogs.
And Miss Russell, my wife and I are members of the lake, and she did mention they should have more activities. I'm glad you brought that up.
Yeah, we're going to go ahead.
Yeah.
Council agrees. It's.
Yeah, and like I know lakes get the perception of being dirty, but I actually find it pretty clean.
Yeah, it's a beautiful lake.
So,
I think people, if they don't get there to see how nice it really is, that's why we're hoping to get them out, and then once they're there, keep them there by having stuff to do.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Joe?
Joe Wells, 5 Washington Street, Pompton Plains. Just along the same lines, is there a contingency plan for the dog park?
Not at this time.
Well,
Because a lot of people, really miss that activity, especially, at this time of year, sometimes they can't, there's a lot of places they can't walk the dog, and anecdotally, like I said, I've been asked a lot of times if there's anything that the town is going to do for that. So at this point, I just respond, there's no...
We were hoping the water would recede, which it started to, but absent that, we would have to explore where another site would be appropriate. I've had a lot of conversations with people about a temporary dog park, and the challenge is you can't do a temporary dog park. You need to have certain safety things in place which require fencing and et cetera. So, yeah, that's the challenge, is where would we put it, what would we invest in it?
Good, it's an answer I can give to people and so forth. All right, thank you.
thank you. Any other public comments? Next on the agenda is minutes for approval. We have the February 26, 2019 minutes. Councilman Phelan, you were absent, so someone...
I'll make a motion to approve February, what was it?
26th.
26 minutes.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
I know I have them.
All in favor? Aye.
Abstain.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is closed session. I don't think we have, do we have anything?
Sir.
I do not. All right, so no closed session. We're going for, is there a motion for adjournment?
I'll make that motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.